Welcome to the draft ranking series. It's draft season, which means it's time to rank the best of the best. The wide receivers are up today, and they might have the best positional group in the entire draft. If you're new, subscribe to the channel as I'm ranking every positional group. But for now, I'm Chase Keller, and welcome to the top 10 wide receivers in the 2024 NFL Draft. Enjoy. Before we get into the top 10, here are some honorable mentions. Alabama's Jermaine Burton is a translatable deep threat with great route running abilities, but he falls to 11th because of his low number of targets. Washington's Jalen Polk doesn't have the wide receiver 1 skill set for the league, but just because he's an end zone nightmare puts him in 12th. And we stay in Washington as the 3-level slot threat with nice route running abilities, and Jalen McMillan is 13th. So those are the honorable mentions. Let's move into the top 10. Kicking us off today is one of my biggest sleepers in this entire draft, and this guy has a great grade. I'm talking about Virginia wide receiver Malik Washington. Washington sits at an undersized 5'8", 194 pounds, but a lot of his skill set reminds me of Deebo Samuel. In the right system, Washington could be well on his way to an early Pro Bowl nod. He's a super shifty player who can thrive as a route runner and as a yak threat. He's got the speed as well to burn DBs through his breaks and give some upside as a vertical threat. He also has reliability as a receiver with 6 career drops on 321 targets, and his ability to make flashy contested catches is nice. Alongside that, he has some physical traits. He's able to bounce off tackles at high levels and has some very good contact balance. Washington also adds value as a kick returner, as he had 14 kick returns in 2023. But Washington does have some negatives, and a lot of them relate to his size. Washington has very minimal versatility, and he will be stuck to the slot in the NFL. He can be used as a gadget player, but he won't be heavily used as an outside receiver. He also has catch radius concerns because of his size, and with a lengthy corner he might lose a lot of value. Finally, he doesn't have a lot of vertical upside down the sideline for the same reasons. So Washington gives teams a lot of upside, and if he can be placed in the right scheme, he is golden. My grade for Washington is a B, which is a late second round grade and a 70 overall. Yes, this is the worst grade on this list. And the top 9 receivers are all B+ or better. And that starts with Georgia wideout Ladd McConkey. McConkey missed a good chunk of 2023 with a lingering ankle injury, but he recovered well and he's still a great receiver. Just like Washington, McConkey's strongest trait is his ability to make shifty plays as a route runner and a yak threat. But McConkey brings more to the table. He's got great vision in the open field. He's got very deceptive breaks when he runs routes, and he's able to separate both physically and athletically. He also provides most value as a screen receiver and a deep receiver, where his ball tracking is fantastic. Along with this, he has alignment versatility, and he played 71% of his career snaps outside and 29 of them in the slot. The sheer amount of positives for McConkey is one to watch as the draft inches closer and closer. But some of these negatives are pretty concerning, I won't lie. That begins with his lean frame at 6 foot 186 pounds, and that will bring limitations to the league. When it comes to his traits, he's fairly mediocre at breaking the press, and he could use a bigger release package. And while he can separate well physically, his play strength is just average in the grand scheme. As a result, he does tend to get knocked off routes easily. And no matter the circumstances, that ankle injury is still a concern as it lingered in 2023. It wasn't just a simple injury. But the negatives are going to be there. With the sheer amount of positives that McConkey has, teams are going to love him. McConkey receives a B+ grade, which is a mid-second round grade, and a 71 overall. He reminds me a lot of Deontay Johnson. In the 8th slot on my wide receiver big board, I like Oregon wide receiver Troy Franklin just about as much as everyone else does. Franklin was a top quarterback's #1 target, and if you have those circumstances, you're bound to be looked at no matter what. You're also bound to be looked at with high expectations. Franklin obviously had those high expectations, and he went through with them. Beginning with his positives, Franklin is a high IQ route runner with fantastic awareness in zone coverages. He explodes out of those breaks at high levels, and that especially shows in his ability to be a deep vertical threat. Franklin is a playmaking quarterback's best friend, a guy who made so many great off-script plays on tape. He also is able to make great adjustments when the ball is thrown to him, as he can make nice catches with his elite body control. Two more things. His combo routes are great, and he runs nice routes through traffic. Franklin's NFL comparison is Chiefs wideout Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and that may seem like a negative comparison, but for the right reasons, it makes sense. Franklin has drop concerns as he heads into the league, as he dropped 8% of his career targets, including 10% in 2023 alone. Franklin is also a taller receiver like MVS, but he's much more lean at 6'2", 176. This lean frame also reflects his average play strength, and it translates to missed contested catch opportunities. Finally, he struggles to consistently break press man. Franklin isn't the most reliable wide receiver prospect, but he does come into the draft with some great appealing traits. He gets the same grade as Ladd McConkey, and his pro comparison shouldn't really scare anyone. It's just a playset similarity. Moving on to number 7, I have the first of 2 Texas receivers on this list. Some see it as interchangeable. I don't see it as much. At number 7, I have Xavier Worthy. Worthy is an extremely speedy and explosive wide receiver, and he might be the worst of the 2 Texas wideouts, but he cannot be underestimated. As I said, Worthy has blazing speed. He just broke the NFL Combine record with a 4.21 40-yard dash. This is absolutely present on tape, as he is able to get vertical fast and quick. He also has some nice route running abilities, including the fact that his combo routes are so good. He's super shifty, and overall, he's probably the most athletic wide receiver in this draft class. A few other fantastic traits that Worthy has. He's alignment versatile, he is able to track the ball well going deep and has overall good catch concentration, he has good vision as an open field receiver, and he adds value as a kick returner. So with his insane athleticism, where does he lose? Well, he's 165 pounds, and that low of a weight should reflect some negatives. He does not have great play strength and is forced to rely on his athleticism to separate. He does not have contested catch upside because he gets pushed around too much on 50-50 balls. He's prone to big hits, therefore is prone to fumbles, and he had 3 career lost fumbles. Finally, he can force missed tackles, but he's unable to do it consistently. So all of these negatives make sense because of his frame, but he has the freak athleticism to give defenses hell. He has the same grade and overall as the last 2 guys, and my NFL comparison for him is Jameson Williams. I also have 2 LSU wide receivers on this list, but this one should be more straightforward than the Texas one. I have Brian Thomas Jr. at number 6. The other LSU wide receiver is being debated as an underdog number 1 wide receiver, but that shouldn't put negative connotation on BTJ. Let's switch it up and begin with his negatives. Just like every receiver up to this point, his play strength is fairly mediocre when it comes to running his routes and consistently breaking press coverage. He also has some drop concerns, as he dropped 8 passes on 135 targets in 2022 and 2023 combined. Finally, I wanted to see more in-route reps, but it makes sense as his quarterback struggles to read down the middle. But those are the only 3 negatives that I have for BTJ. That should show that this kid is a legitimate NFL prospect. I say kid like I'm not a freshman in college. Thomas has a nice frame at 6'4", 205 pounds. He's an elite playmaker and made a lot of nice off-script reps, and it was clear that he was constantly on the same page with Jaden Daniels. He also has some very good deep speed that allows him to separate vertically at high levels. This athleticism translates to open field success, as he is a shifty yak receiver with very nice vision in the open field. This high IQ receiver also puts together very good reps out of zone coverages, and his spatial awareness is very solid. Thomas Jr. with the right quarterback will give him wide receiver 1 reps at the next level, which is more than he got in college. Thomas gets a B+ with a mid-second round tag just like the last couple guys, but he is a 72 overall instead of a 71. As we enter into the top 5, I have a guy whose stock is falling a little bit because of the combine this year, and that is Florida State's Keon Coleman. He's not made to be a speedy, athletic wideout like the combine is supposed to show, but he is still a threat when he lines up outside. How does he make himself a threat then? Well, he's the best contested catch receiver in this class for many reasons. He's top 1% in catch radius, he's very good at concentrating for sideline catches, he has great ball tracking, and he can just get up and make some berserk grabs. All of this gives him heavy goal-to-go upside. Alongside these great contested catch traits, he's able to separate physically and put together some great routes at times. He also can break press at a good rate, and he adds value as a punt returner. He almost had a punt return touchdown in 2023 before he got hawked. Coleman is an extremely flashy receiver who can make some great grabs when you throw it to him. But playing wide receiver is not about playing physical and making all these flashy catches, and that's where he loses a lot. Before getting into the traits, his production was never anything to adore, and his efficiency was actually not good in the 2023 season. But as you may expect, he struggles to separate without physicality, and in terms of routes, he fails to consistently separate on routes that aren't comebacks. This includes vertically and inside. He also has a smaller route tree, and he does not have the deep speed to burn defensive backs. So Coleman has some concerns, but just for the fact that he's able to make some great contested catch grabs, he should be looked at a high level. Coleman receives the first A- of this video, as he is an early second round grade with a 73 overall. Moving into the top 4, I have a guy who I am higher on, but I wouldn't call him a sleeper. The consensus wide receiver 7 is my wide receiver 4. Texas wideout Adonai Mitchell is great. AD is a super appealing wide receiver with very high upside for the NFL, and teams need to take notes. Mitchell's positives begin with his ability to beat the press so much, especially for his leaner frame. His ability to get up and make 50-50 grabs is very good as well, and that translates to very flashy grabs, which are very present on film. Along with that, he is an appealing yak threat who is slippery in the open field, and he is a reliable threat with his one drop on 103 targets over the last 2 seasons. The 3-level threat traits just keep coming in, as he is a great ball tracker when targeted deep, and he even plays more physical than his traits give off. Whoa, that is a large variety and a high quantity of positive traits. The negatives are there, but they aren't as significant. First off, there are some athletic concerns with Mitchell. He ran fast in the 40, but for some reason he struggles to separate vertically. Alongside that, his short burst is nothing to adore either. The next 2 negatives are a little minor. He does sometimes give up on plays if he's unable to separate after his break, and he's not a good blocker in the run. AD Mitchell is in my top 4 because of his great quantity of traits and his continuing upside after those. Mitchell just misses out on a first round grade as he receives an A- with a 74 overall tag. Entering into the top 3, the remaining guys are also in the consensus top 3. These top dogs start with Washington wideout Rome Odunze. A lot of people have him and Neighbors as interchangeable, and I can get behind that as he was almost my number 2. I made a whole scouting report on Odunze and the rest of these top guys, so these will not take long. If you are interested in watching in-depth scouting reports on these 3, check out the info button at the top of this video. Anyways, here's a rundown. Positively, he's a 3-level threat with a frame that will absolutely translate to the NFL. He's a crisp route runner with great combo routes, spatial awareness, and ball tracking skills. He is also a lethal threat in the open field, and he has great hands that can haul in very tough catches. Negatively, his deep speed is a genuine concern for the NFL. His separation in tight coverage is inconsistent, and some route breaks hold on for too long. He's not as physical as his frame may give off, and as a result, he struggles to separate and press at times. Finally, he doesn't add too much as a blocker. Odunze is the consensus wide receiver 3 But some analysts aren't lying when they say he could have been wide receiver 1 in many other classes. He is a first round grade, and out of all the overalls that you can get for that, he's a 76. I honestly think that he's the second coming of Mike Evans. Alright, top 2 time. Some people think that LSU's Malik Neighbors is actually better than Ohio State's Marvin Harrison Jr., and I am not one of those people. Neighbors is number 2. Once again, I made a full scouting report on this guy, so check that out if you want more in-depth analysis. Positively, Neighbors is a true deep threat at the next level. He has the speed, the explosiveness, and the contested catch ability to be trusted heavily down the sideline. He is also a great route runner overall with an extremely deceptive release package, crispiness in his routes, and nice concentration and body control. To tag on top of that, he is alignment versatile, he has yak upside but didn't have the greatest yak production, and he draws a lot of PI calls. Negatively, his route tree is not the most extensive, but just like BTJ, it is because of JD5. He has a lack of effort on contested catches and just tries to draw PI, he falls on a concerning amount of routes, and his catch radius is honestly pretty mediocre. Despite these negatives, Neighbors will absolutely feed in the deep game once he steps foot on an NFL field. Neighbors is a 77 overall first round grade, and he just misses out on number 1. And finally, the number 1 wide receiver in the 2024 NFL Draft is none other than Ohio State's Marvin Harrison Jr. This is the only A+ prospect that I have on my scouting board so far, so listen up to what that means later on. For now, here's a summary since I also made a video on him. Positively, he's super explosive off the line and he gets up to his top speed super quick. That top speed is very good as well. He's an impactful route runner at all 3 levels of the field and he has fantastic body control. The physical receiver adds on many other traits too, as he can block very well, he can make flashy catches, and he has great awareness of zone coverages. Negatively, there isn't much at all. He does struggle to break first contact, which takes away yak upside. At the same time, I would have loved to see more yak reps. He also has a leanish upper body and his short route running is pretty inconsistent. MHJ is a generational wide receiver, and his great combination of traits are going to give defenses hell for many years to come. So he gets an A+. If you're new to the channel, that is a Hall of Fame projected player in my opinion. I don't want to give these grades out too easily, so this means that I believe they have an 80% chance or better to make the Hall of Fame. As I said before, this is the only grade that I have given out so far this draft season. Last year, I gave it to Will Anderson Jr. and Jalen Carter. So, those are my top 10 wide receivers in the 2024 NFL Draft. Do you agree with my list? Who is in your top 10? Let me know in the comment section below. Wait, are you not subscribed yet? Well, do it now. I release content like this all the time and would really appreciate your support. I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and I will see you all next time.